There are big changes coming, and we need to be prepared. It is time for the commonteers to stand up and protect the resources that are needed for our common unities, and protect them from the privateers who are trying to take everything, the few who want it all. It is always the way in life, not just humans, but all life. But it does have to be defended against, and the way we defend it is by coming together into common unity and being commonteers, building commonwealth based on common value, built on common ground, governed by common law and common sense, hopefully. And we come and we build a economic republic, a nation of resources that we own as commonwealth, and there are no kings. So if someone wants it all, then they better do all the work or stand aside, because we are a commons based on the 8 parameters that Ostrom discovered, and all the common sense and understanding that people have about governing resources as a commons. Imagine if 1 million of us came together into a flock. A million people form a company that has no resources yet. It's just a shell. It comes into existence when there's 1 million people, and suddenly it turns on, and then everyone's contributing an amount a month. We all keep our jobs at the monarchies, and we slowly begin to build the central nervous system of this new, increasingly complex cooperative structure that needs to be built. That's the task of our generation, is to build this new, increasingly complex cooperative structure, and to leave it as an inheritance to our descendants. That's why this channel is called For Our Descendants, because we do what we do for them, the ones we will never even know. And it's okay to not mind if people tell your story, because they're grateful that you were where you were at the moment in time that you were needed, and you helped, right? What better thing to live your life for, to be remembered well, right? So let's be responsible. Let's be the adults. Let's build something better, because clearly what we have is not top notch. We can do a whole lot better, but we need to come together to do it, and we need to keep the free riders at bay. It's always good to have a little bit of free riding. It keeps things fresh and challenges the system. It makes the system stronger, right? But the voracious predators who just, kill and move on to the next, and kill, take and take and take, even though their bellies are full, and and their loneliness is not. And suddenly it's about winning some kind of game to impress the other masters of the universe. it's a messed up system and it's not working for them either. But we need to manage the resources of this unique variable planet that we happen to land on and have been blessed with the opportunity that this planet has given us. We all should be very, very grateful. But it's also turning into a time that for our own survival, we're going to need to build a completely different type of way of living. We're going to have to go back to the cliff dwellers and the pueblo builders and the castle builders, and we're going to have to build into the earth, and we're going to have to localize our grids because these international grids are vulnerable, and we don't want to leave a world where our descendants are vulnerable to resource exploitation because we didn't plan things. We didn't manage our resources better. I think this idea for a new civilization, a new structure, has to be wikied. It has to have people who are working on all varied, different myriad of aspects of it. Permaculturists talking about how to grow food, masons talking about how to dig the pueblos into the earth, tram experts talking about how to move the modular transportation units around so that we can build a community that needs no fossil fuels, needs not burn ancient death in order to live, that we can live in such a way that we leave that stuff, and we get the heart of the ocean pumping again and the lungs of the world breathing, and we give life back to the earth because we've almost strangled it. We've almost just strangled it. But it's pretty resilient, and we might find that it doesn't take kindly to a parasite that strangles it. So it boosts it off. Yeah, I believe that we are at a moment of evolution. That this is one of those times in human history where we have to come up with a evolutionary idea. And it can't just be one person's idea. It has to be an idea that is quantum. That is all things at once. It's everybody's input, everyone's greatest talent, everyone's little speciality. It's kind of how Burning Man is structured. It's how a lot of really interesting things are organized. It's tried and true. It's as old as human beings. The word commons is actually the oldest word in written language. It was found on a cuneiform tablet, like one of the ancient mimeograph machines. It's basically a roller pin with a contract on it that you roll out in clay, and you get a fresh piece of clay and you can roll out another. And it was basically an agreement that the guy dropping off 5 bushels of barley was going to get 2 casks of beer at the end. It was a commons. You grow the barley, we'll brew the beer, and in the end, this is how much beer you get for the barley you contributed. Right? That's your pay. That's your fee. It's how commons work, and it's how we can build wealth without needing financing, with needing very little predatory capital, because that's what it is, predatory capital. We need common wealth. We need common capital that we manage together as a people and is not owned by one tyrant. Because that's ultimately what happens when one person owns more than they can swallow. They become tyrants because they feel guilty, and then they enjoy their excess and they want to defend it, and then they take it personal. And that's the history of monarchs. But the history of commonteers, and that's what we need to be now in this time. We need to be commonteers, and Lynn Ostrom needs to be our prophet. Robert Wright, Brian Pataki, Thomas Malone, Christian List, all the people who have been studying how these things work and learning from the honeybee, the algorithm of judgment aggregation, and all of that can be coded into an app. So what if this million people suddenly takes that $10 a month and starts funding the creation of an app that will help them govern themselves, but also help them prosper? It will be owned as commonwealth. There won't be a Zuckerberg or a Musk or a Ellison or a Jobs or a Weinstein. They'll just there'll be a system of governance, and and we come together in a Congress and we discuss these things and we make decisions and we decide and we vote and we give our voice and we come to terms, and then we move forward and we prosper and we're peaceful and people have what they need and they don't need to take. Right? That's the world we can build. I believe it. It's the world we can build. Let's build that world. Let's live that world. Let's leave that world for our descendants. Let's be the ancestors that they deserve. So, are you a commonteer or a privateer? It's a choice.